You are now listening to Clay Mohr, the American storyteller. What a night. I had finally dozed off when I heard the phone going off out in the kitchen. I thought to myself, I'll call them back later. Felt like I had literally just closed my eyes. A large group of coyotes had been howling in back all night and making all kinds of racket. I don't know if they were having some kind of a love fest or what. But at one point, I was ready to grab my Henry rifle and go outside and pop a couple of them. And I said to myself, no, they got a right to live too. Everything has a purpose, even if the Almighty put them there to irritate the crap out of me. Instead, I decided to take some solace in a bottle of Yukon Jack. As usual, that was a bad idea, as now, not only am I tired, but I have a headache to go along with it. Nice job, Clay. Well, once the phone stopped ringing, I heard the voicemail alert go off. I better go check and see who it is. I picked up the phone and saw the missed call. Turns out it was my nephew, Mikey. I caught the time on the microwave out of the corner of my eye, and it wasn't even 7 yet. They never get up this early. I better call them back right away. I hate these kind of calls because it's like, now what? So I hit the button. It rang a couple of times, and Karen picked up. Now I'm really concerned. She asked, did you get my message? Yeah, but I wanted to call back right away to make sure you guys are all right. Is everything okay? She said, everything's fine. We're doing just great. Well, don't get me wrong. I was relieved. But usually when this phone rings, it's for one of two reasons. Either someone has a problem or they need money. Never to tell me everything is fine. Anyways, I asked her, where's Mikey? He wanted me to call you, because he's driving. I says, well, where is that? We're just right on the other side of Indianapolis. We finished our couple of days stay in small town USA. She kind of chuckled as she was telling me. We wanted to see if it would be all right to come stay with you for a few days. Sure, I said without hesitation. This is family. But I asked her, you guys have the time? It's an all-day drive just to get here. Well, it turns out they took my advice and took some time off. Well, I said, sounds great, but your cholesterol is going to go up when you come here. She laughed. We're taking a break from that too. I said, in that case, give me a call when you get about 30 minutes or so out. It'll probably be dark by then. She said, okay, Uncle Clay, talk to you later. I hung up the phone and had this feeling in the pit of my stomach. My German Shepherd Leica was sitting there and just gave me that look like, all right, what did you do now? Now, we got to get busy spiffing this joint up a little. I said, you better not been climbing up on them beds in those spare bedrooms. She tucked tail and went to her spot by the fireplace. Yeah, I didn't think so, I said. Well, later on, I got the call that they were almost here, and it was late, like I figured. I saw the lights coming down the drive, and I guess I kind of let out a a sigh of relief. But I opened the door before they could knock and welcomed them both in. I asked my nephew, do you need a hand bringing your stuff in? Nah, no, I got it. So I showed Karen the way to the guest room. And by that time, Mikey had all their stuff in the house. The two of them looked pretty wiped out. Karen made the comment that it's been a long day and they would rather just hit the hay if that was okay. I said, sure. They weren't going to get any arguments from me as I was tired from last night's shenanigans. I said, no problem. Get up whenever you want and I will have breakfast ready. Well, I made sure I got up early to make my famous biscuits and gravy, so everybody tells me. My sausage gravy has actual chunks of sausage in it. Did you ever order biscuits and gravy at some of these places and the gravy has these little black dots in it and it tastes like wallpaper paste? It's like, why bother? I also add a little bacon grease in mine. Little trick I picked up from an old timer I met down in Tennessee one time when I was there. Nothing like home cooking, I always said. Shortly after I heard the guest room door open up and the two of them made their way into the kitchen. They get some rest, I said. Mikey said, we slept like a baby. And Karen said, is it always this quiet here? Pretty much, I said. All right, so I lied. Well, I poured them each a cup of coffee and topped mine off. You guys hungry? Sure, it really smells good, my nephew said. So I fixed them both up a plate and Karen remarked, this is really good, Uncle Clay. What's all in it? I said, don't ask. Well, my nephew didn't even get to the second forkful, and Big Mouth Bob's name came up. I thought to myself, I wonder what happened. But at least he was smiling. I guess when they got there, Bob took him over and seated him at the big round table. That's where Bob holds kangaroo court with all the locals. Karen chimed in and said, it was really nice. All the men stood up and greeted us. I noticed they didn't sit down until we did. I said, Karen, that's the way it's supposed to be. Good old school manners, I thought to myself. That's why I suggested you guys, come out this way to take a break. Yeah, it's just a different way of life, I guess. Well, Mikey said, seems like if Bob isn't cracking jokes, all he's doing is complaining. I said, well, you have to listen closely to what he's actually complaining about. That's the key. I guess once all the locals left, it was just Bob and my nephew. Bob's youngest daughter, Anna, was home from college for spring break. Karen and her really hit it off, and Anna wanted to show her around. Probably a good thing, that way Big Mouth could let it all hang out. Now, everybody thought it was a big deal that Bob was sending his daughter Anna to Notre Dame. I saw right through it. She was taking accounting and other business courses. That way she could help out with the family cafe and the other businesses he had. Like I said before, that's why they call it the family cafe. I responded to my nephew again and asked him, well, what was Bob's biggest complaint? Well, Mikey went on to tell me that Bob was making a comparison between, big cities and Main Street, USA, as he always liked to call it. At one point, Bob told him, Mikey, you know how sometimes you go out to get food and they mess up the order, or the service is bad, or maybe the food just isn't that good. So you get real mad and swear you're never going to go back. But after a while, you find yourself going right back to the place that screwed you over. Well, let me tell you something. If I serve a bad breakfast at 8 o'clock in the morning here, by noontime, it's all over the county. And I'm here to tell you, they ain't coming back. That's the difference. Bob went on to say, if only people realized the value that they have as a consumer. Well, I poured us all another cup of coffee and thought to myself, yep, my nephew just got a dose of Big Mouth Bob Economics 101. I asked my nephew, well, did you learn anything? He said, hell yeah. Karen and I worked too hard for our money to spend it at places where we're not appreciated. Let the rest of these people settle for lousy products or overpriced services. And Karen agreed and said they were really going to start watching their money, and especially where they spent it. I waited a second and then commented, now can you imagine if everyone did the same thing? How much better things would be? Companies and businesses would either have to get their act together or suffer the consequences. Yeah, I thought to myself, at least this kid was paying attention. I started to clear the table and told him, we've got plenty of time over the next few days to talk, as I was anxious to get out to my kennels to check on one of my female German shepherds. Brina Lynn had recently had her litter of puppies. I named her after one of my ex-girlfriends. I couldn't decide which one, so I named her after both. Thought it sounded kind of neat. Well, after we saw the dogs, I told my nephew and his bride, go ahead and mess with the puppies, and if you want, I just gassed up the four-wheelers, so knock yourself out on the trails, but please be careful, Well, I wanted to run over to one of my neighbors, Dan. He raises Black Angus, and it just had a group of them butchered. I had him put aside some high-end steaks for me. I thought it would be nice to grill some up for the three of us. So I told him I would make dinner later, and we could get a campfire going and talk some more about their trip and Big Mouth. Early spring here is just great campfire weather. I told Karen, I don't know if you brought any wine, but I don't have any. She said, that's all right. I want to try some of your Yukon Jack. I said, really? Glanced over at my nephew, and he just kind of shrugged his shoulders. I said, okay. A campfire with Yukon Jack and Big Mouth Bob. I thought to myself, what did I create? A couple of monsters here or what? Well, this is shaping up to be a pretty interesting few days. But that's another story for another time, bringing the past to the present. I am Clay Mohr.